Hello friends and welcome to the channel. In this video I would like to go over Dragonsong's Reprise Ultimate Phase 3, so let's just dive right in. Throughout this phase, we will be facing off against Nidhogg, and he's going to open up the encounter with a massive raid wide. So when you kill Forden, make sure that you are mitigating this raid wide heavily. You're going to need your shield healers' shields, and you're also going to need some mitigation from the party as a whole. So just make sure you're organizing this amongst your raid group. When Nidhogg lands, he will not be working off anyone's aggro, so make sure that you have a dedicated tank to taking Nidhogg and tanking him. Also, make sure that you are facing Nidhogg away from the party as he does line cleave auto attacks at the tank. What my group does is we face Nidhogg towards A and everyone else is either on one or spread out. You don't have to do it this way, but that's how my group does it. He will do 3 of these auto attacks and then he's going to cast an ability called Dive from Grace. Now you're going to see these markers on people's heads. You're going to see a 1 marker, a 2 marker, and a 3 marker. There are 3 1 markers, 2 markers, and 3 markers. Now what this means is this is the order those people are going to get dived by Nidhogg's clones. Now this is important, but let me explain as we go through the mechanics. So first things first, we have our numbers, and it's going to be a debuff on us throughout the entire encounter. So we don't need to remember our number. We do have the debuff bar there for reference. So if you do forget, look at the debuff bar and you'll be fine. Once the cast has finished, he is going to give every single party member a specific dive. Now let's go over the dives first. You have high jump target, you have elusive jump target, and you have spine shatter dive target. Let's go over why these even matter. When Nidhogg's clones dash you, once you take the dash or the dive, the clone will then spawn a tower which needs to be taken by someone that isn't the person that just took the dive. Now these towers are going to spawn depending on how you drop that Nidhogg clone according to your debuff. So high jump, elusive jump, or spine shatter dive. High jump is the easiest one. When you get high jump target, all he's going to do is he's going to dive right on top of you, and the tower is going to be placed literally on top of you. So very easy. Elusive jump target is going to place the tower directly behind you. This is about as big as his hitbox. So what you need to do when you're placing this tower is look away as to not put the tower into the dead wall. But we'll go over the strategy soon. Let me just explain the mechanic first. And then spine shatter dive, if you didn't guess, it's an arrow facing forward and it's going to do the opposite what elusive jump target does. Spine shatter dive is going to face the tower in front of you instead. So what you need to do with these dives and these numbers is you need to place them appropriately around the boss, preferably one to the left of the boss, one to the right of the boss, and one behind the boss. We use the waymarks for this. Now before I get ahead of myself, let me quickly show you what's going to happen before the dives go off, or just during. He's going to cast one of 2 abilities. He's going to cast either Lash and Gnash or Gnash and Lash. Now this is an in and out or out and in mechanic. The best way to remember this, in my opinion, is just remember what the first ability is called. For instance, in this footage right now, I'm showing you it's first Lash and Gnash. That means it's first in and then out. But if it was Gnash and Lash, it would be out and then in. So the way I remember this, again, I'm going to say again, is if it's Lash and Gnash, so Lash is the only word I read when it's that, I know that it's in first and then out. If it's Gnash as the first word, I know that it's out and then in. On top of this, when the cast is finished, it's going to do a stack marker first. So it's going to be stack marker and then the in or the out and then the other in or out in that order. So you don't need to worry about the in and out until the stack marker is taken, but I would pre-position as well. Now you'll notice in this footage, I got spine shatter dive and I was behind the boss first. Now the problem with this is you cannot be behind the boss. You cannot be in the one-way mark and face your arrow towards the group, because then a tower is going to be on the group. So at this particular moment, I am in the wrong spot. That's fine though. I have 9 seconds here to adjust. So how we do this, and this is probably really party finder friendly by the way, and super easy to actually understand. If you are forward arrow in our footage, we have forward arrow or spine shatter dive go directly to C. We have elusive jump go directly to 3, and we have the high jump go directly to 1, which is behind the boss. This way, there is no way that a tower is going to be on the group, And because the specific arrows always go to these specific locations, for instance, my Spine Shatter dive is always going to be on C and Elusive Jump is always going to be on free, we always know that if we have this specific arrow, then we go to this specific spot. And it just keeps the strategy consistent throughout the encounter. This is consistent throughout pulls, so you'll notice that the ones have the arrows, the threes all have high jumps, and the reds, which are the twos, have arrows as well. Now the red arrows don't matter too much, because if, for instance, we all had high jump in this footage and we're all ones, then what we do is we actually just pre-position and we just find a spot to go in. It's kind of YOLO, but there's so much time to adjust that it's absolutely fine with the high jumps. But with the arrows, we do have specific locations. Now, also the stack, very important as well. With the stack, make sure that for the first stack, it's the threes and the twos are all stacked up together because they need to all take the stack. Also, the stack does quite a bit of damage, so make sure that you have a reprisal all the time, no exceptions, and either a feint or an addle, and maybe rotate the two between the stacks because there's 2 stacks in total. Now you'll see that I got dived, and you'll always get dived even if you do have an arrow facing forward. It doesn't mean it's going to dive the forward location. All it means is it's going to place the tower forward. So where I just got dived, it's going to instead place that tower to my dancer over there. He, low, needed to turn around when the elusive jump was coming to the end of the timer, and he would need to turn around and have his back facing towards me, who is on C, and this would make the tower spawn on C as well. So if your timer is on like 2 or 3 seconds and your GCD is just coming up, you need to weigh in the worth. Is it worth it to get that extra GCD off, or just keep to looking backwards and make sure that that tower does go towards C? Because if you do forget to turn as the free waymark with the elusive jump, you're going to spawn that tower in the wall and no one's going to be able to make it in time. So make sure that you do avoid this at all costs. Now you'll see that the moment ones got dived, we went back to the group there, and we're also dodging the in and out during this as well. And you'll see that the threes all moved to their locations. Now the threes moved to their locations because they pre-positioned for their locations in this mechanic. Because they're all high jumps, they had to pre-position rather than relying on the arrows to tell them the specific safe spot. But they had so much time and they pre-positioned literally at the beginning of the phase, so they knew exactly what towers they were going to take. Meanwhile, the group is just dodging the in and outs. After the threes have took a tower just there, you're going to notice these Nidhogg clones. These Nidhogg clones need to be baited as they're going to do a Gear Skogul line AoE. So once you took your tower, you need to go up to these clones and you need to bait that Gear Skogul. Everyone's going to take one of these towers as well, no exceptions. So because the ones went first, they dropped their towers first. That means that the threes had to take their towers. But we also keep those positions consistent. So everyone's going to have to take a tower. Because me and the dancer were on free and C, we're going to have to take the second set of towers that are coming up from the 2 markers. Now you notice that the 2 markers are just simply going on the waymark here in preparation, and they got dived just like that. They need to go out of the group because if you do hit the group with your dive, you're going to cause a wipe. Now for the 2s, we just pre-position them, but maybe if you wanted to be consistent, you could keep the same consistent strategy. If you had the 2s have arrows and you had a backwards arrow and a forwards arrow, you could have the forwards arrow go to B, which is by C, and that just makes sense. And you could have the backwards arrow go to 4, which is by 3, and that just makes sense because that's what you do anyway with the 1 or 3 arrows. So if you wanted to do that, you could do that. And you notice because C was my spot for number 1, that means I need to take this tower. So I'm taking this tower now, and then I'm going to move behind the Nidhogg clone, bait his cleave, and then move in, go in with my group to stack and dodge the in and out here. That is my job done. Meanwhile, the 2s are going to have to take the last set of towers here. So this is quite easy. My black mage placed his dive on B and my monk placed his dive on 4, right? So the easy solution here is those 2 are just going to take the towers that are closest to them where they baited their first set of dives. The only difference here is that because there is only 2 2s, but there is 3 towers, then who takes that last tower? The person who takes the last tower is the person who placed their tower south, or on 1 in our case, as number 1. So if you are number 1 and you place your tower south, you're going to have to wait out a little bit longer because you're going to have to take this tower here. To summarize, 3s need to take the 1 towers. 1s need to take the left and right towers of the 2 markers, except the one that placed a tower south. Twos have to take the 3 towers left and right of the boss, and the remaining one that went south is going to take the last tower that the south 3 left. I want to quickly revise that phase in Raid Planner for you. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Our waymarks are placed exactly like this. We then have the boss here facing towards A. We're going to see all of the jumps on 1s. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put our 1s in place. We're then going to have an instance where all the 1s have high jumps here. So all we do is just pre-position like we did here. So you can see the pre-position, and obviously they'll move like this, right? That makes sense, right? And just like that, they have their high jumps. All they're going to do here is just stay put, wait it out. The high jumps are going to go out. They'll have towers, and the 3s at this point are arrows, so it's quite simple, really. You know that the front arrow is going to go on C, the backwards arrow is going to go on 3, and if you're a high jump, you're going to go south. You'll take that tower, you'll do your bait, you know how to do the bait, and then once that's over, as 3s, you're just going to stay put because it doesn't matter. Also, you'll notice I'm not going through the ins and the outs. Just remember that those are happening during this point, and the stacks. So do remember to stay stacked up for this and then do your stuff. Of course, 3s, you are stacked for the very first one, and then you are no longer stacked for any of the others. So 3s are going to hold their position here. 2s are going to go out, and they're going to go out with either their high jumps or their arrows. So just like we said, if you want to do this, you can. My group personally, we just pre-position the 2s, but if you want to keep it consistent, you can just have the forward arrow on C and the backwards arrow on 3. Or if you both have high jumps, then of course that solves itself. You're just going to pre-position. 2s are then going to run out of their towers, of course, go back into the group because the group is going to take a stack, and that includes the 1s. The 1s are going to be there for the stack as well. And then as soon as that stack's gone off, the 1s can start pre-positioning, going into their towers here because they need to take these towers. These 1s, remember, are the ones that were here. So this one is always going to take this tower, and the one that did this one is always going to take this tower, remember. As for the south one, they're just going to stay put for now. They aren't needed just yet, but they will be needed. So then the 1s are going to take the 2 towers. Of course, they'll bait the Geskogels, no problem there. Then the 1s are going to come back into the group to make sure that they are in for the stack. The 3s are staying put, but at this point, the 3s mechanics have gone off. So remember what these 3s are. You are forward arrow, you are back arrow, and you are high jump. So remember here, this one just wants to face forward. They have an easy job. This one low, remember when your countdown is reaching the end, make sure to turn around and face that 3-way marker. So you are placing your tower over here because you do not want to end up placing your tower back here. Because if you do place your tower back here, that's what it's going to look like. And do you think this person here who's ready to take a tower here is going to recognize that and is going to be able to take that in time? They're not. It's going to be a wipe. You're all going to die. So do remember to base that arrow away so it's pointing towards C. Once these have gone off, make sure that 2s are going to run to their designated spot. So you know this 2 goes here and this 2 goes here because this 2 placed his dive here and this 2 placed his dive here. So remember, they're going to go like this, and that one that's just been waiting there, they are now going to go over here and take this tower because that's what they've been waiting for. So you're going to see towers are going to spawn, the 2s are going to be in place here, the 1 is also going to be in place here. They're going to take the tower, they're then going to take the bait, and then the job is done. Everyone can go back into the group. Remember, whoever the main tank is, maybe it's this 3, maybe go to the side, maybe have the group here. Just make sure you're not cleaving anyone with those frontal cleaves. After the 2s and the 1 has baited their Geskogel, the main tank is going to start taking auto attacks again. I believe it's 2 or 3 here. And then Nidhogg is going to cast Drachen Lance. And this is simply a conal cleave in front of him. So it's a wake up mechanic. Just pay attention to where he's casting it and dodge. Now you're going to see these towers here, and explaining these towers is probably better left off to my raid planner, which I'm going to do. But I'll give you a quick rundown of what these do. So you'll see these towers and you'll see that they have these pillars, of course, right? The amount of pillars they have is the amount of players they need, otherwise they'll explode. So what we do here is we have the 2 healers and the 2 ranged take an intercardinal spot where these towers are going to always spawn, and they're going to stay put. They're not going to move at all. They're always going to be in the towers no matter what. The tanks and the melee are going to be the adjusters here. So in our group, we have the tanks and the melees adjust, and you also have a spot as a tank and melee as well. So all of the healers and the ranged have designated locations, but so do the tanks tanks and melee, but they are the adjusters. So in this case, the scholar on 2 has a 1 pillar. So that means our ninja is going to have to adjust here. My black mage, who is my partner low, has 2 pillars on his tower. So I just simply go in to take this tower. It's quite simple. You'll also see that my monk had his designated spot, and it was as simple as just stay put. So he could stay put in his designated spot. I can stay put in my designated spot, but our ninja had to adjust to B. So that's exactly what he did. Now, these towers also have baits, just like the first towers. And there is also going to be one of the Nidhogg clones have a tank buster, and Nidhogg himself is going to have a tank buster. How you want to deal with these tank busters is up to you and how you have dealt with previous tank busters in Forden's phase. But what we do is we have 1 tank invuln and 1 tank use all of their mitigation. Okay, let's talk towers. Now, I'm going to try my best not to overcomplicate this. I'm going to try my best to keep it simple, because it can get a little bit complicated, but you just need fast reactions. You just need to be on it. I'm not going to give you every single scenario. These towers, as I've said, can get complicated. There can be so many different patterns, but there's always obviously going to be towers in every cardinal direction. Someone at least is always going to have to be ready to take those towers, but of course that's why we have these ranged as static positions, because they're always there and they'll always be ready to take those towers. So we're going to start off with an easy pattern first. We have 2 on each, so you know that that's pretty easy, right? You're just going to go like this, like that. Everyone's going to take that. Easy job. We then have a bit more of a complicated pattern, but not so much either. So this one's pretty simple. And the way that we personally do it is we go clockwise. So this tank is obviously just going to go there because, you know, it's his location anyway. This tank is going to clockwise rotation. So that one's solved already. This melee DPS obviously is just going to go there. This melee DPS going to clockwise, just like that. So that's pretty easy as well. Now this is where things get tricky. Obviously this tank won't do this, right? This tank is just going to go there, quite easy. This melee DPS, if he looked clockwise, he would see that this one's 1. And if he looked clockwise again, he would see that this one is 2. So he literally can't look clockwise. It's going to be a waste of time. What you need to do is you need to like pan your camera around, stay center if you're the adjust. Don't go to your position too early because it's going to minimize the time that you get to adjust. So this one just simply is going to go counterclockwise. So it sounds simple, but it can be missable. So they're going to go there. Of course, this melee is already here, so he's going to go there too. And this tank probably gets to the roughest. This tank is going to look there, and they can't take that one. Behind them, they can't take that one. This one, they can't take that one. So their last option is to go here. It is really rough on time, so you really do want to just make sure you're centering yourself here so you have more than enough time to get to the tower. So that's just my tip from me to you. Make sure that if you are the adjusters, try and orientate yourself to where your designated spot is, but be ready to adjust. So be ready sort of in the center here and just be ready to run to whatever tower you need to take. So in this case, I would need to go to this one. And just like that, that's how you solve towers. After that, Nidhogg will do a few more auto attacks on the main tank. You're going to have all of your bursts ready at this point, and you're going to have to burst Nidhogg down, otherwise you won't meet the DPS check. It's pretty tight here, and just as a heads up, if you do get hit by any unnecessary mechanics like the ins or the outs or that traction lance just there, you are going to face a damage down, and you probably will wipe to enrage if you have that damage down. It is lethal. If you have the damage down, the only viable way to recover is to actually run into the wall and get resurrected. But don't do this during vital mechanics where you're needed. After that, make sure to all stack up here tightly because you're going to get a buff, and this buff is going to allow you to actually proceed with the next phase. These eyes are going to spawn, you're going to get this buff, and that's as far as I'm going to take you because that is going to be left to another video because this is another phase. But if you can't wait, make sure each of your tanks takes an eye each and split your party into 2 light parties, one on one side and one on the other side. There will be a raid wide as well, which is going to give everyone a bleed. But as I said, I'm going to leave that for the next video because I don't want to drag this phase on too long because this is actually a new phase. And that, my friends, will just about wrap up the video. I'm going to keep it short. So if you did watch it, thanks a lot for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you have any feedback, leave a comment. And if you aren't subscribed yet, please do consider hitting that subscribe button as it really does help me a bunch. With all that said and out of the way, I will see you guys in the next one. So until then, take it easy, stay safe, we out, goodbye.